Hello everyone and welcome to SUGTalks. I'm Craig Dale, your host, and together with our special guest, we'll take a deep dive into the topics, challenges and opportunities facing SAP users today. Please make sure you do subscribe so you never miss any of our future episodes. I'm delighted today to be joined by Neil Gardner, Head of Cloud ERP, Rise with SAP, SAP UK and Ireland. So welcome Neil.
Morning, Craig. Yeah, thank you very much for having me.
Oh, it's great to have you on, actually. In today's episode, we're going to be discussing SAP's cloud transition option, what it is and who it is aimed at. And just before we get into that, Neil, I'd just like to ask you, if you could meet any world leader, alive or dead, who would it be and why?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I think from a world leader perspective, I think Winston Churchill probably. I think for the life he led, the influence he had, and for some of the craziness. So I think it would be a very, very interesting conversation.
Oh, that's amazing. That's a great one. I think that is fantastic. I think I'd go. The one that came to my mind straight away is Queen Elizabeth II. I think from I suppose a similar perspective in that the things that she's seen and been involved with, maybe sitting down for a cup of tea, just for a conversation like that would be amazing, I think.
Yes, I would agree, and when people were talk about the Queen, she was the Queen.
Yeah, exactly, and that's where I was going to go with. But I thought, okay, maybe I need to be more clear. But yes, you're right, the Queen. Okay, so back on to other topics, Neil, and just to get us started. Would you be able to introduce yourself, please, along with your role and responsibilities at SAP?
Yeah, absolutely, Craig. Yeah. So once again, thanks ever so much for having me. It's great to be working with the user group in the UK and Ireland. So Neil Gardner, I've been in and around the SAP sort of ecosystem for 10, 12, 13 years it may be now. So it's currently my second time around at SAP. I joined back in, I think it was 2010 originally, working on one of the first iterations or the first iterations of SAP's Cloud ERP solutions, Business by Design. So I have Cloud ERP sort of running through my veins at SAP. Spent a lot of time in the partner world as well. Took a bit of a hiatus at Microsoft for a couple of years and then rejoined SAP about 6 years ago now. Joining the fledgling Rise with SAP business at a global level, and as of actually September last year, took over the reins in the UK and Ireland, leading the Rise with SAP Cloud ERP business. So I have a team of specialists that support our account teams and our customers, mapping that journey from on-premise ECC or S4 into our cloud solutions.
Thank you for that. Appreciate it. And I must admit, back in your history there, and I am a lover of the Business by Design suite. I think that was a great tool, and I think
it still has a soft spot in my heart, I have to say.
Yeah, I think it had more capabilities than maybe what was ever driven out of it, perhaps, to grow.
I would agree. I think the depth of its capabilities, always sort of astounded me, and certainly in my early days, when we had some very sort of long-standing SAP architects and pre-sales individuals working on it that had worked on, obviously, I would say, full fat SAP over the years and came into working on by design. They were astounded, and that was 10 plus years ago. But anyway, yes, no, certainly has a soft spot in my heart, and certainly, even back then, 10, 12 years ago, working with customers, explaining the benefits of cloud ERP, running, SaaS solutions in the cloud. Certainly early days for SAP, and we've, come a long way since then, which has been great to see. But no, it was certainly a great grounding, that's for sure.
It is indeed, and look at us reminiscing again. First Winston Churchill, then the Queen, now by design. So,
I don't think it holds quite such stature, but I mean, I think Hasso would be very pleased to see it sitting at that little level.
yeah. So just moving swiftly on now, let's look to the future, and many SAP customers are still thinking about or on the road to S4 HANA. And are you able to summarise the current rate of progress there for us?
Yeah, that's a big question to start with, Craig. No, I mean, from my perspective, the momentum around S4, I would say, continues to build, and especially Rise with SAP has been a tremendous catalyst for that. We are seeing, good progress across the different industries and the different business sizes. I would say, large enterprise are certainly leading the way, and it's, but it's equally sort of exciting to see how some of our smaller and medium-sized customers and businesses are embracing that sort of evolution. So yeah, it's certainly moving in the right direction, and the momentum is good. I think the success of Rise has made that transition more accessible, and I think really Rise and Grow are really sort of starting sort of to democratize the ability and access to and unlocking some of the new latest versions, some of the security benefits, and breaking into that AI space as well. So yeah, I think good progress. That said, and there are some of our largest and most complex ERP estates, and these are the ones often with multiple ERP ECC systems, have flagged that they may not be ready to complete or move every installation in time. And so, and this is obviously, why we're having the conversation today, and why SAP, have introduced this sort of additional sort of time-bound option. So, yeah, momentum is really, really strong, but there is a realization as well.
There is indeed, because obviously, 2027 is coming very rapidly at us, and there is, I think, what I believe everybody really needs to understand is there is a cost of doing nothing. And, we need to help customers through that and realise that at kind of at different levels, because there's okay, you could say, oh, I've got extended maintenance, etc. I can go into that custom specific, but that all has a cost to it. There is a definitive cost of doing nothing, and what we hope to help customers understand is what is that cost to them. So you talked about Rise being a catalyst, and of course we're here today to talk about the transition option, and you mentioned there the most complex customers with complex estates struggling perhaps to meet those deadlines. So why did SAP decide to introduce a transition option for customers?
Yeah, I think so there is a realization. You're right, and I think we introduced the transition option ultimately to provide flexibility and continue to offer choice to that to, I suppose, to the diverse customer base, and looking to as best as we can accommodate the sort of the various different business needs and maybe the migration strategies. As I mentioned, ultimately, the purpose of the transition option is to give those larger, complex ERP landscapes a safe and, I suppose, time-bound runway into, ultimately between 2031 and 2033 to complete their Rise with SAP journey. And this, that time-bound element is, to ensure we're maintaining that sort of business continuity and sort of addressing the post 2030 risks, I would say. So, if we think about that customer demographic, it's, I would say, definitely in those sort of larger complex estates, and really giving them this sort of this safe haven, I was so to speak, if they encounter challenges and issues on that journey.
And it obviously designed for those very large enterprises with very complex kind of infrastructure and landscapes. But I believe it's open to everybody, though. Is that right?
Yeah, no, it absolutely is. So, so yes, it's not restricted to any sort of customer size, but there are, certain elements. And as I say, if we think about sort of that target organization on that sort of customer demographic, it is primarily for the larger, more complex customer that again has multiple ECC systems and multiple interdependencies. Now, I suppose I would add that it is optional, and hopefully, and this is strange for someone within SAP to say this. Hopefully, it's a solution that no customer will ever need to buy, and that's the reality here. This is something that is there, but we're hoping ideally that it won't be needed. So for most customers, planning to complete their transformation by 2030. The option won't be necessary at all, and this will be a very dull conversation for them. But nevertheless, the option is tailored for those requiring that additional time and support due to the complexity of their system. So, whilst it's not limited to only those very large organisations, there are some prerequisites that sort of come into play, and ultimately for me, it's certainly not a sort of a pathway to remain on ECC indefinitely. So that to your point, that sort of cost of doing nothing is really top of mind.
Yeah. So maybe perhaps something like an emergency exit for those organisations.
Well,
It's there
maybe
to use in emergency.
Maybe the parachute under your seat, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. Could you provide us with a few more further details of what's included as part of the transition option, and how specifically you hope it will help customers?
Yeah, absolutely. So happy to share sort of what's included and maybe how it helps. And as I say, this is ultimately something that we're working with customers to try and ensure they don't need and they won't need this help. But maybe first, what is it? The rather aptly sort of named SAP ERP edition transition option. I know it rolls off the tongue like many of our product names, but ultimately it's a full SAP ERP cloud subscription, and it's offered as I suppose as a variant of the standard ERP cloud edition that a customer will be running, and this includes services to facilitate that move to S4 and Rise with SAP. So baseline cloud subscription, additional services, and a sort of a success plan, which I can come back to really help our customers on that journey. So there are a couple of different elements to it, I would say, from a business continuity perspective, and I think that's probably one that's sort of top of mind. The service would continue to cover elements like legal changes, security patches, bug fixes, etc., that are in scope for the particular products it covers, during that sort of window of 2031 to 2033. And actually, and I don't know if we'll be able to do this, but the specific sort of products and eligible sort of details are all in a quite a detailed SAP note that I'm hoping we can tag in the podcast description for all of our customers to sort of go and surface at their own pleasure. But I would say, from helping our customers, firstly, that preserves that continuity. So, up to 3 years beyond that 2030 window, while customers ultimately finalise, and I think so the finalised bit is a key bit. Their move to sort of S4 in the cloud, so SAP Cloud ERP, with a structured sort of guidance and services to really help de-risk that journey and help prepare those systems ultimately for that ultimate target state.
Oh, thank you. Yes, we will share the link to that SAP note if you share with us, because I think that is important for people to know that it doesn't cover all products, and hence why
Correct.
You have that note with all the products that it does cover.
Absolutely.
And are there any specific prerequisites organisations need to be aware of?
Yeah, I mean that very much so. So as I mentioned at the top, there are a number of elements that a customer would need to be aware of to avail of. So any customer looking to avail of the transition option, firstly must already be an SAP ERP private cloud customer before the end of 2030. So they must already be on that journey. So this service does not apply to on-premise ECC deployments. So that's, I think, to be very clear. There are a couple of other elements that I think should be made clear. From a database perspective, it would only be supported on HANA. From a sort of enhancement pack perspective, looking at EHP 8. There is a minimum system size. So this is when we talk about possibly larger customers, and that's where the target audience is of a minimum of 2 terabyte systems. So fairly sizable systems. And I would say there's also some sort of technical readiness considerations as well. Customers will need to be prepared or will need to prepare to remove some of the components that are not in scope for the transition option. So, things like, Java or excluded add-ons. So, there are other things to consider other than just rolling into, this sort of transition option. And again, all the sort of products listed and the scope is outlined in that SAP note we can tag. So that's, I would say, from that perspective. And also, I mentioned sort of this max success plan. That will be a prerequisite as well. So a max success plan, which will be in combination with a transition option to help our customers on that journey as well. And you mentioned sort of not all products in scope as well. And so, from a scope perspective, it centers on ECC 6 and doesn't include some of the standalone CRM, SRM, etc. And again, so it's very, very, sort of have to be very clear on, if we're thinking about, okay, which parts of a landscape haven't moved in time, rather than transitioning an entire end-to-end landscape because, there hasn't been any work begun.
Okay, thank you. And you mentioned the max success plan. Just to be clear on that, I understand that's a support plan, the support package the customer needs to be on. Is that right?
Correct. So this will be in all sort of the different cases of the journey. Yes, it's the max success plan. So this is a sort of additional services, transformation services. And now the details of the max success plan won't actually be launched until January next year, 2026. But yes, this will be a package of services to help that transition and to ensure those customers are moved by the end of 2023, because there is no more beyond that.
Okay, thank you.
We know our community, but we don't know yours yet. Why not share the benefits of your UKI Sub membership with those who don't know about us? The UKI Sub referral scheme rewards you for helping to grow and develop our community. You can check out the link in the description to find out more about how you can get involved. Terms and conditions apply. We hope you enjoy the rest of the podcast.
So you mentioned obviously customers must already be on the journey to the future, to cloud, etc., on specific enhancements, packs, HANA database, etc., etc. Are there kind of, I suppose, is there you mentioned that it's time bound of what it is and what it's supporting customers extending for that customer's 31 to 33. But is there any time bound elements that customers need to think about now if they're thinking, okay, I may not be ready by 2030, but what should I be doing now if I want to take advantage of this?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would urge all of our customers to sort of start thinking in that mindset, and I know the majority are, as you say, sort of standing still or the do nothing option, in my opinion, is a costly one, and we would clearly like to work with every customer and our partners to build a plan to support our customers going forward. But yeah, there are things, and there are incentives, I would say, also for customers that move sooner into our sort of Cloud ERP family as well to avail of the transition option. So yes, there are things that I think that will benefit customers if the transition option does become relevant to them. But again, the plan and the work that my team are doing and a lot of effort within SAP and within our partner ecosystem is to work with our customers to get them on that journey as soon as possible. So again, this transition option should be a moot point, but it is there if it is absolutely needed.
Oh, thank you. And you mentioned incentives there. I always like it when somebody from SAP mentions incentives, Neil. And it may be a tricky one to look at because I'm not sure whether it is kind of an open thing or whether it's specific to customers. But are you able to provide any specifics around what this might cost a customer and what incentives are available?
Yeah, absolutely. So, happy to share that. So, as far as pricing goes and pricing models, there has been actually an article released on SAP.com. I think it was in August early this year, but that outlines the sort of the pricing model and what a customer should expect. So, the transition option is a new cloud subscription. With an uplift typically compared to their standard, what they would have been on, which is ERP Private Cloud Edition, and the pricing that would have been valid at that point. So it's a new cloud subscription, and typically will have an uplift. Now from a promotion or perspective, and I think this is really encouraging from customers that have committed early to ECC in the cloud, so the SAP ERP Private Edition option. So any customers committing to that before the end of 2025 will actually be able to adopt the transition option in 2031 at essentially the same commercial terms or commercially equivalent terms to their current subscription at that time. So essentially no uplift for those customers. Those customers that took that step within 2025 or before. Going on from that, customers that sign up or commit to SAP ERP Private Edition in 2026, a standard 20% uplift will apply when switching as the transition option, and obviously that switch would happen in 2031. Now for those beyond 2027 or later, the uplift is not yet clarified or disclosed, and that's where I don't have that level of detail for you, I'm afraid, which I'd love to be able to share. I'm expecting that sort of final pricing and communication really to be closer to when the transition option actually becomes available to purchase, which is going to be I would say sort of 2028 timeframe, I would say. So they're the different sort of the different stages, I would say. And as I mentioned, in all the above cases, whether a customer is on Cloud ERP today, great, and we're helping them on that journey, and that step is a great step to try and ensure they don't need the transition option, or a customer that moves a little bit later. As I say, that max success plan piece will be a requirement as well. And if we're talking about sort of pricing and fees, the fee for that, the max success plan, again, will come in addition to any uplifts that may come on to a customer's plan. As I said, more details regarding that max success plan will be generally available. I'm expecting January 2026, so hopefully that will really then clarify, all the information around the transition option. And as I said, maybe we can provide a link as well to the article from August as well. But again, just details that in, for our customers to make it very clear.
Definitely. Well, to our listeners, do look at the show notes. We'll include all the links in there that we're talking about in this conversation there for you. So really, to summarise that piece, the sooner you do it, the cheaper it is.
Correct. And again, I don't want to bang on about it too much, Craig, but to your point, the doing nothing, the transition option is something that I hope that will be used and availed of very, very sparsely, if at all. But it is there, and there is a structured plan, roadmap, pathway for those customers that do find themselves in that position. But yes, the sooner you move, the sooner you embark on that journey, I think the better all round for our customers and our users and their customers as well, to see the benefits of what that sort of transformation can bring to them.
Excellent. So I think, looking at that from the perspective of the customer, if I'm not already on my journey or have my plans in place, I really need to start planning now, looking at, okay, what is a feasible timeline for me to make this journey? And if I feel I'm likely to cross over the 2030 boundary, I really need to be starting to look at these transition options now.
Yeah, and actually, it's a really good point, and having that in mind as part of the business case to bring to bear why we should move sooner, because to your point, any customer that's not on that journey already, there will be an uplift for the transition option. There will be limitations to it as well, so there'll be other work that will need to be done within a customer's landscape to avail of the transition option. So, as I said at the top, it's sort of not something that a customer will just roll into. There will be a lot of thought and effort to be put into it as well. It is there to secure a customer's landscape, but it's not to be taken lightly, I would say. So yes, the more thought and progress made up front, I think the better.
Yeah, and of course, if I can plan now, if I can make sure, we put a project in place so it is done before then, so I don't need the transition option, it should be done much, and dare I say this in the world of SAP, and I'm sorry for this, Neil, much easier and cheaper. So, we all know nothing's ever easy, but it will be easier and it will be cheaper.
For sure.
Thank you. And when the transition option was released very early this year, are there any misconceptions that you've seen around the ERP private edition transition option?
Yeah, I've got a wry smile here. So I mean, there's yes, I would say a few misconceptions, a bit of potentially misinformation. I think clearly there was sort of rumours around this at the back end of last year, which I think quite a lot of industry commentators speculating, and I think cause some confusion and maybe the odd misconception. So yeah, happy to highlight maybe the ones that sort of come top of mind to me. So I would say that the first thing is this just a maintenance extension? I would say is the first one misconception, and from my side, absolutely not. So. Yeah, just to be clear, this is not a sort of a maintenance prolongation or a new maintenance phase. It's as I say, it's a new cloud ERP subscription that is very much time bound, a full cloud ERP subscription with a defined product scope, and as I say, only available in the cloud, which I don't think would come as any surprise. And as I say, there's also let's not forget the associated cost with the service, and as I mentioned, the prerequisites. So as I say, it's not a catch-all service or a safety net for the majority of our customers, or customers looking just to push out that sort of that move to S4. And as we spoke about, I'd sort of urge all customers to be proactive in their planning. The second one, I would say, can I buy it now? Can I secure it now to sort of lock that in, so I don't have to think about the move or that transition for an extended period of time? Unfortunately, no, not yet. As you mentioned, sort of that sort of visibility of the service was kicked off earlier this year. The ability to purchase, the sort of target date will be around early 2028, I'd expect, and then for obviously the usage to kick in beyond 2030 into 2033. Maybe a couple of other ones, and I shouldn't smile, but can I stay on-prem and still get this as an option? Unfortunately not. No, as I mentioned, one of the prerequisites is that a customer must already be on the ERP Private Cloud Edition before that 2031 time frame. So yeah, ERP, on-prem ERP customers wouldn't be eligible for this beyond that point. And I suppose finally, maybe, is this going to be extended beyond 2033? From what I'm seeing, this is going to end and will end at the end of 2033. So, customers must have completed their move before that point, and hence the reason for the Max Success Plan to really ensure we are engaged, and SAP have got skin in the game, so to speak, to ensure a customer has successfully transitioned beyond that point. Now, I don't know if there's any others that you've heard, Craig, or sort of wild or crazy sort of thoughts on this side of things.
No. There was just that extension to the maintenance deadline that I had kind of come across that really needed to be cut off at the knees, which you did. So thanks for that, Neil. That we heard the same thing straight away. That we've been talking to many customers about to really help them understand that is not the case. And you mentioned you've mentioned a number of prerequisites. So let's say that I'm a customer. I'm really looking to see how I can move forward. How can I convince my board, etc., that we need to be moving sooner rather than later? Is there any additional support that SAP is offering to help customers decide their future, and also if the transition option might be something that they will need to leverage?
Yeah, absolutely, and I would hope our teams and from an SAP perspective, our partners, and obviously from the support of yourselves as well, and actually just the general community. But from a decision perspective, I would encourage any of our customers to engage with their account teams and our engineering teams, and a key part is in conjunction with our partners to really help assess the eligibility, the scope, and the timing. I mean, that's all critical. And yes, customers are very different, and they have their unique elements within their business, within their timeframes, within their landscape. Competing for multiple projects, multiple resources. It's challenging times. So we understand that this isn't an easy conversation or something that comes easily, as we may have mentioned before. But I would say putting in that time and effort. And really thinking about how we plan for a successful migration in a timely manner, and building that right business case. So our colleagues in the community can show the value to their business, and to their customers the benefits of being on the latest release of S4, availing of the latest AI technologies, etc. I think is super important. And ultimately, the key thing for me here is not to wait, as we've discussed. So it's not about maybe helping to decide whether the transition option is right or not for them. For me, it's about working closely with our customers and partners to make sure the transition option isn't required in the first place.
Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate that. And you mentioned on-premise customers, and can I just be sat on-premise and then decide in 2028? And no, they can't. But just to check with you for on-premise customers with complex environments, if they're thinking much longer term, will their environments continue to be supported?
I mean, regarding the on-prem support topic, I think the SAP position has been pretty consistent and clear for some time. Absolutely, the roadmap reflects SAP's desire to provide stability and I suppose predictability for our super important on-prem customers. Let's not forget that's has been the backbone of our business. So I wouldn't want to sort of dismiss that in any way, shape, or form. And we want to ensure that we continue to customers continue to leverage their investments, but while planning ahead. So we will continue to offer robust support and services, regular updates, enhancements, security patches, etc. To help our customers, our on-prem customers, remain, at sort of their optimal state, I would say. That said, I would clearly encourage all customers to explore, the benefits of transitioning to, our cloud solutions, whether that's core ERP through Rise with SAP or across other SAP solutions. To really, to help them, support their customers' demands, I would say, for, whether it's more agile or scalable or leveraging sort of those sort of innovative technologies.
Yeah, I think, it's good to hear that. We all know, I believe, the future is cloud. It just may take some customers several steps to get there. And I think,
absolutely.
as long as they're supported on that journey, that's the main thing. And, I've heard it from many SAP leaders over the years that no customer will be left behind. It's good to continue to hear that.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously that transition is driven by, several factors within a customer. So I think you've got to be mindful of that and really, be conscious of, how we can support that customer through that journey. So yeah, it's certainly not forgotten.
Excellent. And as we come towards a close now, Neil, is there any final thoughts you'd like to share around the ERP private edition transition option, or RISE, or the ECC 6 maintenance deadline?
Firstly, I would love to have had a more concise, catchy name for the transition option, because it doesn't help me in conversation like this. No, but in all seriousness, I think from the first point I would say it's crucial for all customers and SAP users to take note of the maintenance deadline and plan for their transition effectively. I think that's a given. RISE with SAP and the transition option, businesses and our customers do have access to, some flexible pathways, I would say, to help, accommodate their unique, and specific journeys. But we have to be mindful of the maintenance deadlines that are coming to the fore. For me, the transition option is something that I think we wanted and needed to clarify. I think that's a good thing, and it does show that there's that continued commitment. But it is, I would say it's a time-bound bridge. It's 2031 to 2033, and ultimately designed to protect that business continuity while a customer is finishing off that move. Rather than the starting point, and as I said, it's definitely not a path to remain on ECC even in the cloud indefinitely. So no, I mean that I would say would be my sort of final thoughts, and maybe just to wrap up. And I know this hasn't been an AI heavy podcast, which I'm sure probably 90% are at the moment, but for me, so the RISE with SAP journey, moving to getting customers leveraging cloud ERP, whether that be public or private cloud in a RISE journey, and I think that's super important. We're seeing larger customers going down the private cloud route. Some of our customers are moving straight from ECC into the public cloud, and that's a very, very valid and important move as well. Ultimately, if we've completed that move by 2030. The transition option is a moot point, and this podcast will fade into the archives and never be seen again. So,
yes, let's hope that is, and all customers are well on that route. But it's there, like I think mentioned earlier, that emergency exit option, I suppose.
Correct. Hopefully it won't be needed.
Yeah. Neil, thank you. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for your insights today. I really do appreciate you joining us.
No, absolute pleasure, Craig, and happy to support future activities, and looking forward to seeing you very, very soon.
Yes, indeed. And to our listeners, thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed the conversation and found it valuable. Please make sure you do subscribe so you don't miss any of our future episodes. Until the next time, stay safe, stay well, and stay ahead of your deadlines.